Bastrop EDC Board reserves the right to convene an executive session at any time during the meeting regarding any agenda item in compliance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Chapter 551, Government Code. I'm going to open up to public comments, but at first I'd like to say hello to Mr. David Gaddis, our interim planning director. So David, thanks for coming out and joining us. So does anyone have any public comments? If not, we'll go to regular business. So 3.1, approval of meeting minutes of the regular board meeting of July 17, 2017, and the special meeting of July 31st, 2017.
Make a motion to accept those minutes. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passes. 3.2, consideration, discussion, and possible action on resolution R-2017-0012 of the Bastrop EDC to enter into a professional services agreement contract with Bowman Consulting for the downtown trail expansion project.
So this afternoon you got an email from me with the professional services contract attached. It wasn't in the board packet on Friday. It came in middle of the day today. At legal counsel's advice, we've gone to a standard professional services agreement that we're going to provide our professional services contractors, and this is the first use of that. We had one change from the original that Denton Navarro sent over. We deleted 2 words, and Angela took care of all of the formatting corrections on it, and it was added to your Dropbox account, so then you got an email out. The resolution is in your packet. This is the contract to let the engineering, design, construction management for the downtown trail expansion, which there's $409,500 in the FY18 budget. So once we roll into October, we've held the public hearing. We will have approved the professional services agreement and the scope of work with Bowman, and we'll be able to get started on the design and engineering. I will do my best to answer any questions.
So Sean, I'm not really used to getting something at 2 o'clock that I'm then voting on at 5 o'clock. So is it going to, and I understand that it's a standard contract, but I also understand it's the one that we're going to use it'll become the basis for future contracts. If we don't approve it, is it going to put us horrendously behind? I don't want to cause problems, but I don't think we should be in the habit of a 2-hour review on a major contract.
It is perfectly acceptable. We can approve it at the September meeting. We were just trying to clean house on everything that we could get through today, and we didn't get it Friday, and we were expecting it Friday afternoon, and it just didn't make it. So if the board so chooses and wants to table this for the September meeting, it will not delay us any. They actually can't start work until after October 1st, once the budget's in place. So.
Well, I'm only one voice, but that's my unease.
I tend to agree with that. If we're going to be taking a look at a contract like this that we're going to be going forward with in the future, I also tend to agree with that, especially if we're able to go ahead and approve this at a little bit later time in the future.
If the consensus is to postpone this, then we will move forward to item agenda 3.3. Consideration and discussion and possible action on resolution R-2017-0013 of the Bastrop EDC approving the Technology Drive MLK infrastructure project.
So in your packet, you have the resolution. This is the MLK technology infrastructure project that will connect the north end of technology with MLK. It will provide the second ingress and egress route into the industrial park and out of the industrial park, bring us into compliance with the City of Bastrop's development regulations. Let me get to the map here. This is something we've talked about during the budget. We have $1.6 million budgeted for this. It was agreed at the budget workshop that we would use fund balance to fund this project. I will have an update on site A1, which is the site just to the south of the county jail. This site here during executive sessions on real estate negotiations for that site. So this is the finding of fact resolution that it's legal, that we don't have to have a public hearing because of subchapter C of 501. This is for new and expanded business enterprise. And I believe this is also the one this morning that we emailed out the resolution that Charlie and them got to us this morning.
Yeah, and it's one page, which is a little easier.
Yeah. This is just laying out the law and that it's legal.
So I make a motion that we approve Resolution R2017-0013.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item 3.4, consideration, discussion, and possible action on Resolution R2017-0014 of the Bastrop Economic Development Corporation engaging Kristen Savant, Norton Rose Fulbright, U.S. LLP as bond counsel for the Bastrop EDC.
So as we discussed during the budget process, part of the Agnes Home Depot extension is a $1.2 million bond issuance the board is contemplating in the budget. And in order to do a debt issuance, we need to retain bond counsel. Charlie has reviewed the engagement with Norton Rose and has provided us a resolution to engage them as bond counsel until the board chooses to do something else should you approve this today.
Make a motion to accept Resolution R2017-0014.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Any opposed? On to item 3.5, consideration, discussion, and possible action on all matters incident and related to declaring the expectation to reimburse expenditures with proceeds of future debt, including the adoption of Resolution R2017-0015 pertaining thereto.
So Kirsten Savant provided this resolution as part of the debt issuance. In order for the EDC to expend funds in advance of the debt issuance and then be reimbursed, we have to put a reimbursement resolution in place. We did go ahead and include both the Agnes to Home Depot extension project as well as the project in the industrial park, the MLK Technology project, in the reimbursement resolution. By doing that, it gives us the flexibility over the next 6-9 months as we get closer to the debt issuance, should something occur or change that we want to issue something above and beyond the $1.2 million for Agnes Home Depot, we have that option to go and issue debt against that 1.6. It just gives us that flexibility as an EDC and as a board in the future as we get closer to the issuance, should we need to change that dollar amount for some reason, something unforeseen occurs, that it makes logical sense for us to do that. The budget reflects the fact that we're issuing $1.2 million in debt and we're expending $1.6 million in cash. So it would also take a budget amendment if we decided to go in a different direction.
Move that we approve Resolution 2017-15.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
I did want to add one more comment. In your packet and for the public, there is a debt service schedule for 10, 15, 20 years on the $1.2 million. We just wanted to provide that to the public so that they had an idea of what this issuance would cost when we get around to doing that. And that is a revised schedule from the special budget workshop.
Moving over to item 3.6, consideration, discussion, and possible action to approve the transfer of $25,000 from the contingency line item to the 380 agreement reimbursement line item in the Bastrop EDC's FY 216-2 2016-2017 budget.
As we're getting closer to closing out FY17, it has become apparent to us as staff that we're most likely going to end up short in our 380 reimbursement line item at $329,000. And that's a combination of the Buc-ee's reimbursement as well as the Burleson Crossing reimbursement. This $25,000 under our internal financial control policies can be moved between line items by the board. It is easier for us to do this now than get to the end of the budget year and have to run a full budget amendment through and to make sure that that line item for 380 reimbursements has enough money for the last payment this year. It is staff's recommendation that we use the contingency line item and use your authority as the board under the internal financial control policies to move that money to 380 reimbursements.
I just want to make it clear that that's an indication that sales tax is doing better in those two locations, therefore paying down the 380 agreement faster and getting us to the point where you don't have to pay it anymore, correct?
That is correct. And so this is money that they paid in, we're obligated to reimburse to them. And you know, the budget number that we use for the current year, the $329,000, is going to be short. We're going to up the budget next year to $360,000, which is closer in line to where we think that this year is going to end up, and looking at the growth should be sufficient to cover in FY18.
Make a motion to transfer the funds of $25,000 from the contingency line to the 380 agreement reimbursement line.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to 3.7, consideration, discussion, and possible action to approve resolution R 2017-0016 of the Bastrop Economic Development Corporation, approving an agreement for provision of administrative services and shared services between the City of Bastrop and the Bastrop Economic Development Corporation.
So this agreement is for administrative services that the City of Bastrop provides us, human resources, IT, accounting, finance, that when we utilize their services, we're legally obligated to reimburse them their cost for providing those services to us. We can't receive anything for free. And so over the last 2 years, we've done an allocated cost methodology in which they billed us every month and accounted for all of the hours of the staff. When I went back and looked at that, it became apparent that the amount of hours that were spent over those 2 years in each of the different categories was pretty close to being the same in those 2 years. And so we were able to go in and calculate that our actual reimbursement needs to be $18,000 for the actual administrative services. And then on the shared services side of it, they cost allocate that to us. Our phones, for example, in our office are on the city's phone system, and when Andreas pays the bill, he allocates the EDC their share of the phones. And there are many HR products that's done on. There are communications that's done on with not only the phones, but our internet wireless. Software programs that the city provides that we buy into their license on them. And so this agreement sets out for this budget year, the FY18 and FY19 budget year, the administrative services and our reimbursement to them. And this is the first time that this EDC has actually contractually done that, and that is actually the legal way to do it. And so it is something that we've had on our list to put this agreement in place so that we're within the bounds of the law.
Is this for this fiscal year or next fiscal year?
It's for FY18 and FY19. So it'll take effect on October 1st. We'll continue with the cost allocation method through the end of September, and then on October 1st, when the new budget kicks in, it'll start then.
And make a motion to approve the resolution R 2017-0016 with one provision that you amend this to say it starts in FY18.
A second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Any opposed? Passes. Moving on to item 3.8, consideration, discussion, and possible action to select a finalist for the 921 Main Street redevelopment project.
So this is getting close to the culmination of selecting a redeveloper partner for the 921 Main Street project. Part of the RFQ, the purpose of the RFQ was to find a qualified contractor, and the committee, which was made up of Kevin Plunkett, Ron Spencer, myself, and then Sarah O'Brien from Main Street, went through the Stone, Cobalt, and Stewardship Strategies RFQ responses, as well as asked some additional questions out of those, and we received back those and met again. And the recommendation of the committee is to select Stone, Cobalt as the finalist for the 921 Main Street redevelopment project. And what that means is it allows staff then to start meeting with them and working with them on crafting what that project looks like as far as terms and conditions and deal points, as well as the financial implications of the project, both on the EDC as a public-private partnership, which is what they're proposing, and looking at what the street value, the retail value of the component on the upstairs, downstairs are proposing office over retail. The one caveat that the committee, they proposed the EDC master lease the office on the second floor and then co-locate with possibly Visit Bastrop and possibly the Main Street program, in that the committee wants to have further discussions with them, or has asked staff to have further discussions with them about making sure that that space on the second floor is offered to a private enterprise first, should there be a company wishing to locate in Bastrop or a company that needs to expand into larger office space. And so all today we need is a motion to instruct staff to work with the developer in preparing a public presentation of their project and putting all of the terms, conditions, dollars and cents together to come back to the board for a final approval at a later date. So all we're really doing today is naming a finalist. We are scheduled to meet with them on Wednesday this week to get that process going so that we can get down the road on this.
Is there some differentiation that someone could describe of why this contractor is better than the other?
Kevin and Ron can speak as well.
After looking at the financials of both companies and what they have to offer, we really looked at the strength of the of Cobalt Partners and what they were able to bring to the table as far as their experience is concerned. They've got a whole lot more experience in not only doing this type of development, but they've got the financial wherewithal with no problems whatsoever. The other company, while it is a really interesting idea of what they brought to the table, they didn't necessarily have the experience that we were looking for. It was felt by looking at their financials that they really weren't as strong, and what we don't really need is any type of a failure, especially on a really nice, very visible location like this. So we just felt that this offered a better solution in the long run for Cobalt Partners.
You know, what I would say about Stewardship Strategies is they're going to be a very good development company. This site, with the remediation that needs to occur on that site, we just needed a stronger developer with a longer track record and better financial stability. I know when we reached back out to Stewart to give them this news that if another development opportunity came up, we would most definitely be in touch with them. Their project is very unique and very good. It just is not it's not the finalist that we're recommending.
Make a motion to accept the finalist of 921 Street redevelopment project.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor? Any opposition? Carries. Agenda item 3.9, consideration, discussion, and possible action on approving a business incentive grant agreement for the building located at 916 Main Street, Law Office of Derek Van Gilder.
So we have three business improvement grants coming to the board tonight. We had a previous grant recipient turn their money back and decide not to proceed with their project. And so it made additional funding become available this year. And so the decision, Sarah and I talked about it, we decided that let's go ahead and open it back up and see if we can fully utilize those funds and deploy them within the time frame allowed by the end of September. And we had three projects step up. This project here is one the board previously approved, but this is a supplemental request for additional funding at 916 Main Street. I'm not real sure that I like using a digital book. So they were approved for $7,100 originally, and they're asking for an additional $2,900 with this supplemental grant.
Sean, what is the additional money requested for? What do they want to do, or what do they want to add to the project?
I'm going to let Sarah answer that because she administers
It's the
this.
same project. They had to get a different contractor to complete it in the timeline to be complete by the end of the fiscal year.
There were also some requests made by the design committee in which they made changes to accommodate those requests from the
To
design
make sure that
committee.
the awnings were suspended
Yes.
and that the pillars would stay visible to the street.
Yeah.
No, that contractor is good. He's just really busy. And for the way the city's funding cycle works, we have to close these out by September 15th.
And this is a 50-50 split, is that how this works? So they're actually going to spend $6,000 more, basically?
Correct.
Then I move that we approve the EDC incentive grant for 2017-007 for the building located at 916 Main Street for fiscal year 2017, and authorized the executive director to execute the agreement on behalf of the EDC.
Second.
Just real quick, I sent some questions, so I'd like, if I could, just open it up for discussion if before we put this to a vote, if that's okay. Anyone want to make any comments? Or I just kind of sent some.
Yeah, I have a question. So is it basically, it's the exact same project, it's a different contractor, he's charging more so they can get reimbursed more? Is that the bottom line?
It is a different contractor. They changed the scope of work, and with the timeline that we put in place, the scope of work, one of the things the design committee asked is for a suspended awning so that there's no post down onto Main Street. And so they've gone back and redesigned that, and they're going to anchor it back into the building.
Okay, but what confuses me about that is to say that they've gone back and redesigned it? Because are you saying that you gave them money when they did have posts in Main Street?
No, when the design committee recommended approval of the grant, it hinged on the condition that they suspended the awnings. It just wasn't in their original request, but the funding depended on it.
But if whoever gave money back hadn't given money back, they wouldn't be getting any more money?
They could not have come back and asked for more money if there was not enough left in the account. There may have been. We're still a little less than the $50,000.
But my like you were saying, but we've already approved that, the money originally, and that was with the awning being secured to the building, is that correct?
Correct. You guys approved $7,100 for 916 Main Street. The match is up to $10,000. In order to complete the project on time, they got a new contractor and had some additional costs with moving certain things around that had to deal with the facade of the building.
But if they didn't complete it on time, they wouldn't have gotten reimbursed.
Correct.
Right. So nothing stops them from doing it next time, right?
It just seems to me, if they knew what the project was, they got a contractor to agree to it, they had the money to do it, is it the contractor's responsibility and hence the failure if the contract doesn't do it? Or is it up to us to go, oh, it's okay, we'll just give you more money? I'm a little confused.
I understand your confusion. There was also confusion at the design committee level.
Okay.
Interestingly enough, we received 3 applications. We had $10,322.20 left in funding. When we added up the 50% match for all 3 applications, it ended up being $9,495.92, which would almost zero out the account. So it seemed like a blessing from the sky that we would be able to fund all 3 requests.
So if it's not funded, where does that money go?
It stays in fund balance of the EDC.
Yep.
I'm not trying to be tacky, but it
No,
seems like
I
we're
understand.
rewarding bad behavior. That's what it feels like, so somebody straighten me out.
So,
I wouldn't say that it's bad behavior, but I think it would be the process that's maybe not, I don't want to say correct, but some steps, because I think when it comes to here, in my opinion, and for consideration of funding, that should be the final, and any additional costs should then be incurred by the individual or business owner making the improvements to the said property. That's just my opinion.
That makes perfect sense. This is the first year of the Business Incentive Grant Program. When they called, my first phone call was to Sean to talk it through, and was this even possible? What would be the process? And we agreed at the staff level to bring it back in as a supplemental request. So staff takes full responsibility for that.
So I have a question. So since we've approved one amount, will they'll still have that grant?
Correct.
They can
Yes,
still
ma'am.
do that as long as they get it done before?
Correct.
So they've already been approved for that, no matter what we...
part of what y'all need to
Do you
remember,
waive the timing on it? Like they have to get it done by a certain time?
They have to be
All projects must be completed by September 15th.
And that was known from the very first of any application?
Yes.
So I guess where I'm going with this is if they're paying more to get it done by September 15th, and if we don't spend it, it stays, it just seems like we're artificially spending extra money for a September 15th.
so part of what the board needs, you don't see the whole process. So we have an application deadline to go to design committee to certify that the applications are complete and the scoring is correct. And so from the application deadline to coming to this board is about 30 days.
Right.
And so when they submit their application, they have their proposals from their contractors, and by the time this board makes the initial decision, things can change, a contractor becoming unavailable to do the work once it's approved and executed. And so once they went back and they went to the contractor and said, no, we're going to need to do additional X, Y, and Z, or we'd like to incorporate X, Y, and Z, the dollars changed and the timing changed on it. And so they went to their next low contractor and said, hey, can you do these additional things and comply within the timing of the program? And the contractor said yes. And their question to us was, in order to get done by the deadline, could we apply for supplemental funding? And so we brought it to the board for the board to be able to make that decision as our responsibility as staff. I don't think they're trying to take advantage of us. Under the previous mega and facade grant program, one of the issues that we ran into was grants running into multiple budget years and the board granting extensions into multiple budget years, and it makes it real hard to allocate dollars and to be good stewards of the dollars when a project is taking 12, 14, 18 months and they're getting extensions. And so when we designed this program, we designed it with a hard and fast deadline of we open it in the beginning of the budget year and you have to be complete with your project by the end of the budget year, so we don't have dollars that we're having to guesstimate at the end of September of what we're rolling over into the next budget year. These are small enough projects, they should be able to complete them within the cycle time. It just happens on this one that there's a contractor change, there's some project changes, and they've asked for supplemental financing or supplemental funding.
I would question whether or not, this is a new process and we're on kind of a learning curve, but I'd hate to set a precedent that this sort of thing would happen multiple times, so I'm real hesitant on this additional funding.
And the timeline, just for clarification, the timeline that you described did not change during this process. When they made their first one, they knew when it was due, they knew when the board meeting was going to be, and they knew when the project had to be finished. So if that wasn't properly conveyed to their contractor, or if their contractor is changing their mind, that's kind of, like, that's a consequence of doing business, right? If you contract for somebody to build a house, you can't start till I get the permit.
Right.
I think I'm going to have the permit in 30 days. But they knew, and granted, they knew when they could start, but this board said, but you can't have posts in the street. Is that the first time that got discussed?
No, that was discussed at the original design committee meeting, the first time the grant was heard.
Then perhaps the question is, if I understood what you said there were some changes. And it's not necessarily that they're going to change the contractor, but you said there were some additional things. Maybe we don't understand what the addition...
I think it's both. I think when the design committee originally reviewed the application and requested that funding be dependent on the poles not being in the street and that the awning be suspended, I think when they went back to their contractor, that contractor was unable to get the work done in the specified timeline. From my understanding, the applicant is aware of the meeting tonight and is not here to answer any further questions.
And I know you're just kind of answering on their behalf, and it's really kind of unfair of you, for them not to be here.
That's what I'm here to do.
I guess what I'm not understanding, or I'm confused about, if they already knew what the design parameters were, and the answer to that is yes, and now they're going to not only change contractors, but now they're going to add a few other items the way it's been presented. What are they adding?
And I guess we're not explaining it clearly. So the Main Street Design Committee reviews the applications based on the scoring criteria and ensuring that they're eligible. Derek actually used the Texas Historical Commission's Design Assistance Program that's free as a Texas Main Street city. And those original designs that were submitted had the poles in the ground. And so the design committee asked, could he remove the poles? And so they're not adding anything, they were just changing the construction, I guess, and that's what changed the contractor, I believe, as far as I know.
And this application that's in the packet where he got a total point score of 19 is the same original application or is a supplemental application?
It's a supplemental application. The score on the original application was actually higher. They scored lower on the second round because they are applying for additional funding.
Which would, except for the fact that someone else turned back money, we wouldn't even be having this conversation.
That's correct.
Now, if it is approved today, they still only have, 3 weeks to finish it? What happens if they don't? Do they just...
The funding will roll back into your fund balance account.
Right, but I'm just saying they're liable for the whole bill then?
Yeah, they would be responsible for all the costs of the project.
And they have not started this project at all, correct?
I was out of town all last week, so I haven't looked, but not that I'm aware of.
Charlotte, did we approve this in July? Is that when we approved it? Originally?
I think it was June. Yeah.
So he's had this whole time to start the project, from the time we approved it in June till now, to actually be working on it.
Yes, he couldn't find a contractor until he got the revised bid and came back for additional funding and wanted to wait to see if they could get the gap.
Okay, I just make sure I understand.
Yep.
Yeah, I executed the agreement on the 20th of June.
Make a motion to deny the request.
I second.
There is a motion on the floor to approve, so at that point we could just take, yeah, if you don't want to vote against. And I just want to go, before I just want to go on the record, but I think in this process we should look at maybe a trigger for a start time, because I don't think we'd be in this situation had it been started in a faster time and then we approach the deadline and then there's some urgency that happens there. Not going to speak for anyone, but as a business person, I would look at the dates and reevaluate. And it could be back on our desk at this point. Right. So my point is, I think from that perspective, I mean, if they haven't started, Yeah, so we're going to see it again, I would assume. So maybe we look at, to not put ourselves in this situation, a trigger date of X amount of days after the contract is signed, then we could start that point, because that way we won't get in this situation.
And we can absolutely incorporate that in the fiscal year 18 program.
I think I can speak for everyone in saying we'd like to see the funds go towards improvements, not towards paying expediting fees to a contractor.
Sure.
That doesn't seem like a good use of funds.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Bastrop EDC Economic Development Corporation Business Incentive Grant Big 2017-007 for the building located at 916 Main Street for FY 2017, and authorize EDC, Executive Director, to execute the agreement on behalf of the EDC. All in favor? Any opposed? Opposed. Motion fails. Moving on to item 3.10, consideration, discussion, and possible action on approving a business incentive grant agreement for building signage located at 603 Chestnut Street, Lost Pines Art Bazaar.
So this is the second of 3 business improvement grants for tonight. This is 603 Chestnut Street, Lost Pines Art Bazaar. They are requesting an amount of $1,421 for signage, which is 50% of the estimated project of $2,842. The design committee met and accepted as complete and program eligible under the big guidelines this project. Any questions related to this one? And on page 78 is the project description in your packet.
I just have one question of process. When the money was turned back, how was the community notified that you're going to open it up again?
Through our downtown email distribution list.
That was the same way that they found out about the big program before?
And yes, and it's listed on both the EDC website and the downtown Bastrop website as well. I think there may have been a Facebook post or two.
So this isn't a supplemental project, this is a whole brand-new, start to finish. We
Correct.
have this
This is
idea, we'd like to do it clean.
This was a project that was in the works, they were discussing doing and didn't have a timeline set because the funding became available. They wanted to go ahead and apply and get the work done. They're celebrating their 5th anniversary on Friday, September 1st.
And exactly, and where's this sign going to go?
So it's actually a set of signage. Some's going to be on the Chestnut side of the building, and then some's going to be in the alleyway side. This store actually has 2 entrances.
So is it going to,
It's replacing existing signage.
okay.
And they think they can get it done by the timeline, right?
Yes, it was approved by the Historic Landmark Commission last week, so they're ready to go. They already have their permits.
Is there a motion?
I was going to say, you look like you want a motion, Cam.
Yeah.
I move to approve the big agreement 2017-008 for the building located at 603 Chestnut Street for fiscal year 17 and authorize the executive director to execute the agreement on behalf of the EDC.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Moving on to 3.11 through 11, consideration, discussion, and possible action on approving a business incentive grant agreement for the patio and signage located at 919 Main Street, former Baxter's Building.
So in this request, they're requesting $5,175, which is 50% of the estimated project cost of $10,350. The design committee met and it is program eligible. This one also went to Historic Landmark Commission last week and was approved and is in the process of being permitted if it's not already. The project description is on page 92 in your packet. The outdoor patio they speak about is opens up to the walkway to the alley D parking lot in the back, and so they're looking at enclosing that a little bit so that it is not as open to the sidewalk there. And then they're also looking at new signage for the new business that will be opening there shortly.
I guess a question that I have, and maybe it's just simply that I'm just not informed right now in this 10 seconds, but is Baxter's, are they open or are they closed? I mean, yeah, I hear it different every single day sometimes, so just somebody please tell me, are they going to continue in operations?
Terry Mopey, the owner of Baxter's, sold the Baxter's Catering Company to her chef, and so he will be operating that, mainly doing catering out at Camp Swift for a lot of events, but they are available for your special event or party. And another gentleman has actually signed a lease with Raymond Davis, who is the owner of this property, 919 Main Street, and will be opening up the 602 on Main. And their ribbon cutting is scheduled for Friday, September 1st at 4:30. You're so welcome.
This is like the last one, brand new project, brand new funding, and they fully understand the deadline.
Yes.
Somebody?
I make a motion to approve the business incentive grant agreement for the patio and signage located at 919 Main Street.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Carries. We're going to open public hearing.
Yeah.
Okay. So in your packet, you have the budget that is actually inputted into the financial accounting software of the city of Bastrop, who keeps our books. That is the formal budget of the EDC as it will be incorporated as a component unit of the city in the budget. As a part of approving the EDC budget, we have to hold this public hearing. And we published in the newspaper, the notice of the public hearing was this evening, and where our revenues and expenditures and our best guess of what our estimated beginning balance is and what our ending balance would be based on those revenues and expenses for next year. So in your Dropbox account, and at some point we'll make it onto our website shortly once it's approved, is the budget booklet that we've been going through for, I think this is the third meeting now. And so on page 5 of that booklet is a summary of the revenues and expenses, looking at about 3.7 million in revenues against 5.1 million in expenses, and that will pull our fund balance down $1.4 million, and looking at the allocations of administration and operations, and then programs, projects, and expenses. The next page up there is the actual revenue allocation, which includes our sales tax revenue, our primary source of funding, the cell tower lease, interest income. We get a little bit of money on a note that we hold, 2018 bond proceeds, as well as the Granite and Stone LLC real estate proceeds when it closes next year. We then go through the administrative expenses, which nothing has changed here. Our group insurance costs did go down a few weeks ago, but that was reflected at the special budget workshop, that our group insurance was actually, the increase was less than expected, which was actually good news for a change. And then we get into operations. There were no changes here from the special budget workshop. Marketing and advertising, looking at that, no changes from the special budget workshop. It works out to be 6% of revenue exclusive of the bond issuance and real estate proceeds sale, which is a healthy number and will put us in a good position, and that's what we've budgeted the last couple of years. Looking at professional services, year over year, this is probably where the greatest change came for the public. Our actual professional services are coming down. The audit was a reimbursement to the city of Bastrop, and it was coded in the administrative contract. That is a shared services part of that new agreement you just approved, and so the audit will be accounted for separately so that we can reflect that actual audit expense, and it's not built into some bigger number that is not clear to the public. The other thing that we want to make clear to the public is we've separated our legal expenses for next year. The administrative costs, the things that Denton Navarro does for us every day, day in, day out, whether we're doing projects or not, just the operations of the corporation is a good way to consider that. Charlie being here tonight would be charged to the administrative. The next line item on there is a new line item that is specifically for projects. So as we're working projects and developing agreements to come to this board so that we're clear to the public in what those costs are, we have broken that out into a separate line item. This is a line item that we hope that we're working so many projects that we have to come back and do a budget amendment. And that means that we probably have enough money in there to do 4 or 5 projects without doing that, but we get into doing 6 or 7 projects, and we're all of a sudden having to come back because that number is larger. Engineering has stayed the same. It's just day-to-day engineering. Contractual services is our share of the Kershaw parking lot. It is the parking lot that the city, the EDC, and the county lease at the intersection of Pine and Water Street in a 3-way agreement. We got smarter the last time we did that agreement. We did a 2-year agreement, and so we will be in year 2 of that 2-year agreement in FY18. The city projects and services, this is where we had some discussion last time. What came to the attention to staff, and we concur with Charlie's opinion on this, is that we can't pay to mow the right-of-way of TxDOT out on the highway. We can't pay for the maintenance and operations of the monument signs. But in order to be fair to the city, since it is now apparent that we can't do that, is we need to make that funding available as an offset for some project or grant that is an eligible expense of the EDC. And the city is aware of that, and they will come back to us with an eligible project for that funding of something that they already have in their CIP plan that we can help offset those costs for. And we will continue to do that on a declining basis for the next 5 years by 20%. The Main Street program support, we will be having a project contract come back to the EDC on this. This is another one that has not ever been papered, and it is something that needs to be papered. As we went through that process, what we found out was it's actually a project and not something that we can just contract with the city for. And so we will be posting a public hearing notice for the September meeting and bringing back that agreement. It does create a little bit of dilemma for the city, but it won't be that bad. Once we post the public hearing, there is a 60-day waiting period before the funds can be expended. And so it will put them into probably the first part of November before they can accept payment should the board and the council enter into that agreement. But that will be coming at the September meeting. You approved the administrative services contract tonight. And then the city shared services is those shared services that we were getting invoiced for in the actual cost allocation. We're going to work with the finance department and do the best that we can in not charging to this line item and actually charging them where they need to go. So our benefit connector, which is actually an HR expense, needs to be coded up in HR and human resources in the administration and not in the shared services account. But there's 5 or 6 of those a month that need to be in IT, that need to be in HR, that need to be in other places. But at the moment, the best place to put them here is in the shared services. We know what the estimate is, but we're hopefully that this is a one-time line item and that we get all of those sorted out and we can get them coded into the correct cost codes and the correct allocations. Looking at projects, programs, and grants, we pulled a lot of professional services money that was in that area and created special accounts for them so everybody knows where that money is actually going. Our retail recruiting used to be in professional services. It traditionally has been about $15,000, knowing that we need to do more regional recruiting and do more support recruiting for downtown. We asked the board to increase that to $25,000. The disaster relief grants is a continuation from a chamber project for business mitigation grants during a natural disaster. That program is a continuation of funding there. The big grants that you approved 2 more tonight, there's $50,000 in funding for next year. Education and workforce development is something we've talked about a lot with the board, and a good portion of that money is going to continue to support our youth career programs, but a good portion of that money, about an equal portion of it, is going to be used to buy better employment data and to buy the Chimera database and data and access to it so that we can provide better demographic data of what our workforce and labor shed is here in Bastrop. If you weren't at the special budget workshop, we made that decision because things are changing so fast that if we went out and had a full labor study done today, we would be back doing that study a year from now as we continue to add new housing and new population growth. And we think it's just premature to do a labor study today and 12 months from now have to redo that study, and they're very pricey. Entrepreneurial and small business, we are working with the Main Street program and with the Chamber of Commerce to strengthen that, to help strengthen the resources that are available to our existing small businesses as well as entrepreneurs that want to be in our market. 380 agreement reimbursements is actually a sales tax rebate to Buc-ee's, to Burleson Crossing. Water rights funding several years ago, the EDC committed $600,000 over 10 years to funding water development at the city of Bastrop. And then the land grants and rebates is the performance agreements that are outstanding and the rebates that we'll be making there. And then the closing cost real estate at the bottom is when we sell or close on the Granite and Stone LLC property, we'll have closing costs and expenses associated with that, and that is accounting for those expenses. And then on infrastructure, visiting with the board, the Main Street, the downtown trail expansion, the $409,500 for next year, the BIP technology project at $1.6 million, and then Agnes Home Depot at $1.2 million. We're pulling down fund balance by $1.6 million for the technology MLK project, and we're intending to issue debt on the Agnes and Home Depot infrastructure project. This is a summary of the debt service. There is a refunding that has occurred, and so you see up there in the CO 2010, and then you see some new debt jump up in the GO refunding 2017. The city of Bastrop refinanced that 2010 debt, and it's going to start showing up in that GO 2017. It's an interest-only payment next year, but the year after next, it'll swap over and they'll settle that debt up, and it'll show up in that GO. We also have used the estimates that we have available for the 2018 bond issuance. When we issue the $1.2 million, we'll have expenses to start repaying that as far as principal and interest, and we have done our best with bond counsel and the financial advisor to estimate what this year and next year's will be. We did go ahead and put $25,000 in contingency for those unforeseen things that We have internal financial control policies in place that govern this line item, and so it is there. So then in your board packet, you have the in-code budget, which is what you're actually approving, which matches the budget that you saw that I just went through. Then at the back of the booklet is our work plan, and it goes through each of the subcategories that we have of revenue, administration, operations, marketing and advertising. Our marketing calendar is in there for this year, and this fall we'll do our marketing calendar for 2018. Professional services, city projects and support, projects, programs, grants, sales tax rebate. I updated the incentive schedule for this, infrastructure projects and the descriptions, and then the maps of them all so you can kind of see what they are. Debt service and the debt service schedule, the bond issuance that is being contemplated in the debt service schedule, and then contingency. And that is the budget booklet. Once the budget is adopted by the board, by the council, we'll finalize it. We'll pull it out of this meeting date and actually put it in a separate folder so y'all can go back and reference it throughout the year. We'll make it available on our website as well. And that is my portion of the public hearing.
Do we have any comments or discussion?
Just have one question. On the repurchase of the brewery spot, how does that fit into the budget process? Since you have revenue when you sell it, wouldn't you have a capital outlay when you buy it back?
That is correct. We do not have, we have not gotten the appraisal back on that, so we can't receipt the revenue, project what that revenue is. We'll have to run a budget amendment when that comes to the board.
So that's the process you're going to follow for that?
Correct.
Okay. Is there a way to footnote that as you bring the budget forward to the city that we do have an item that's pretty large, right? A couple $100,000?
It won't be quite that much. Yeah, probably a couple hundred, yes. I can footnote it though, yes.
Thanks.
And we can ask the public.
Yes, any public comments? I would say, I would encourage, once the annual work plan gets out there, whatever we can do for people can read that. So I think it's one of the questions we all get is where are we spending our money? How can we spend our money? And I think staff has done a really good job of detailing in the annual work plan what that is, because I think when they start seeing these items and they read through those bullet points, they see where the resources are, and especially if they look at fiscal 17-18 over fiscal 16-17, they can see where staff and this board has directed to increase funding for items that have been of concern and or priority for the EDC.
Sean, are you planning on bringing a work plan update quarterly, or how often will the board be updated on your progress on the work plan?
So at the September meeting, I believe is when we have it scheduled, we're going to bring back the performance indicators, the goals and metrics with all that table in there. And at that point, the board needs to provide us direction of how often you want us to come back. Is it quarterly? Is it biannually? Y'all can provide us direction in what y'all's preference is. But we need to get that a document accepted into the board as a working document as well. I think that is a document that probably also needs to be added to this booklet so that everybody out there can go to this and look at, see where the money is, what our plan is, and what our actionable items are.
That's my opinion for sure. The work plan needs to be a part of the budget booklet. And then when you make budget amendments, you need to have a work plan that matches that amendment, in my opinion.
Correct.
So that they're always tied out as we're voting on them.
In September, just to refresh, in September when the KPIs or key performance indicators come back, that is the final project process of something that was started probably 8 months ago, direction a couple board members of actually having finite, small goals that we could measure our success and opportunities. So when that comes in September, we'll be able to measure those along with this work plan to see how we're doing. So if we have no more public comments or any other discussion, I'll close the public hearing at this point. Then we'll go on to item 3.13. Bastrop Economic Development Corporation Board of Directors will consider, discuss, and take possible action concerning the above item 3.12. The public hearing on the BEDC's proposal budget for fiscal year 2017-2018, including but not limited to action to modify the proposed budget and/or to adopt the fiscal year 2017-2018 budget as proposed or modified.
I move that we approve the budget.
Okay, go ahead.
I said. Just real quick, so it is going to be approved with the footnote? Is that, okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Any opposition? Motion carries. Executive session 4.1, the Bastrop EDC Board of Directors will meet in a closed executive session pursuant to the Texas Government Code, Chapter 551, to discuss the following. 1, Section 551.072, deliberation about the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property, project sinkhole and/or project revolution. Item 2, Section 551.087, deliberation regarding economic development negotiations, Project Curious George and/or Project Be Well. Bastrop EDC Board of Directors will reconvene into open session to discuss, consider, and/or take any action necessary related to the executive sessions noted herein. No action items, so we're adjourned.